Hello and welcome to Dave's Delightful Dishes. And as always, I'm Dave, and it is such a delight to have you here in my kitchen here today for my 100th episode. Wow, I can't believe I've gotten here already, and I wouldn't have gone this far if it wasn't for all of you watching and continuing to give me suggestions and basically moral support to keep me interested in this project. So, I got something real special for you. Let's check it out. So the recipe I'm going to do today is the very first recipe that got me started on this journey 25 years ago in learning how to cook. And ironically, it's one that I saw on the Food Network. I watched the Barefoot Contessa do beef bourguignon. Now everybody goes, well, you've got Julia Childs mastering the art of French cooking there in the corner. Why don't you use hers? Well, I can, and I have. But this was the one I saw on TV, and it was the very first recipe I did for myself when my wife and I, while we were still dating, moved into our first apartment and had to start cooking. So we're gonna make some beef bourguignon. And there's a whole pile of ingredients here, and you'll see them right here. But the first thing I gotta do is I got 2.5 pounds of cubed stew meat. It's round, like beef round, and it's chopped up into inch and a half pieces. And I'm gonna have to take some salt and kind of get some salt on this, as well as some pepper. And that's just to begin. We got a whole bunch more steps. Let's head over to the cooktop. Okay, so I have a tall-sided Dutch oven that I'm heating right now, getting it warm. And I also have my oven set to 250 degrees. I'm going to take a tablespoon of olive oil and about 8 ounces of bacon that I've chopped into little pieces. This happens to be beef bacon because that's what I have in the house a lot of the time since my wife loves it so much. But regular bacon is fine too, although I don't think turkey bacon would work because it just doesn't have enough rendering. We're going to get this all in here, and it's all, like I said, about 8 ounces. Spread that around, and we're going to get this for about 10 minutes cooking until it's all nice and crispy. Okay, it's been about 7 minutes, and this batch here is definitely crispy. So I need to get a new bowl so I'm not cross-contaminating. And then we're pulling this out with a slotted spoon. And we're going to save it for later. But now we got all this goodness in here, which we're going to use. All right, those last little bits are just going to have to be because it's almost impossible to get them all out. But now I'm going to take the beef and salt and pepper side down. I'm going to lay this out and I'm going to brown all sides. It's probably going to take me, 2 or 3 batches. But we're going to just flip this so that we get browned on all sides. It takes 3 to 5 minutes per batch. Okay, so we're just finishing off on the 3rd batch of beef. And as you can see, they're pretty well browned. And this isn't going to cook them through, obviously. This is a stew. We're just trying to sear them off just so that it doesn't become super dry. So now that these are browned, I'm going to turn this down to low and get the last of this beef off. And we're going to go ahead and set that aside. And now I'm taking a pound of carrots. Now, if you've got carrots in the fridge, you can certainly peel them and cut them into chunks, but I have these baby carrots, which are just the right size, and a pound of them is going to work just fine. As well as 2 yellow onions that I have sliced up. And I need to put in a tablespoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of pepper, which is a pretty big crack. We'll turn that back up to medium. There we go. Since I got this slotted spoon here, I'm just going to use that and stir this up a little bit. Now we're going to cook this in that fat in the pan for, about 10 to 15 minutes until everything is softened up and the onions have browned. And just keep it turning, just so that it doesn't burn on the bottom. You don't have to do it constantly, just kind of regularly give it a stir. So as you can see, the onions are now golden brown and soft. The carrots are going to take longer, but they're starting to soften up. So this is now ready for me to take about 2 cloves of garlic, or 2 teaspoons of garlic, if you've already got it pre-minced, and stir that in. We're just going to let that get the flavor, the heat, bring out the aroma. It'll just be a couple of seconds here, and then it gets fun. Now, watch your eyebrows, everybody. I have a half a cup of cognac here, which I'm going to pour in. And then we're going to cook the alcohol off of it. Let that burn, let that burn. Once the flames go out, we're going to add back the meat and the bacon and any juices that go with it. Let's give them a good stir to get that all mixed up. I'm going to bring the temperature up to high now, because I'm going to add a bottle of red wine. In this case, it's my own Malbec from October 2021. We called it Windsurf. I'm going to put in, if not the whole bottle, certainly most of it. So now that's up to there. Now I have 2 cups of beef stock, but I don't have to use both cups of it. I want to get it so that everything's floating. So I want to get the liquid level above, ends up being just about exactly that 2 cups. Perfect. And I have a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of fresh thyme leaves. And I have a tablespoon of tomato paste. When I'm only using 1 tablespoon, I like getting it out of a tube rather than opening up a whole jar. And let's stir this together. We got to bring this up to a simmer. All right, once this reaches a simmer, we're going to move on to the next step. So we are at a simmer, and what that means is it is time to clap a lid on this, turn off the heat, and this is going down into a 250-degree oven for at least an hour and a half. Now, depending on how long it is before you eat, you can always let it be in there more. It's stew. It can go all day. but needs at least an hour and a half for everything to get nice and soft. You want to make sure that even all the vegetables are fork tender and the meat feels like it's going to fall apart before you call it done. So there'll be other stuff when we get done with the oven, but right now it's going in, and we'll see you in a couple hours. It's been a couple hours, and I'm now ready to make this part for dinner. So we have pulled it out. It is cooked, and as you can see, everything is fork tender and falling apart. So now we got to bring this back up to a simmer and give it a good stir. First thing I've got to do is I've got a package of frozen pearl onions, which are dropping in. And while this goes up to temperature, we are going to take 2 tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to combine that with 3 tablespoons of flour. Just kind of beat it up, give it a basic combine, and then this is all going in, and we got to stir, and stir a lot. Matter of fact, I'm going to get my whisk to really get a good stir on this. And this is what's going to thicken our stew. There we go. So at this point, we're going to let this simmer for another 15 minutes or so. So I need to take this lid out of the way. And I got one more thing to add. So I'm going to get that back burner lit, turn off the front one so I don't burn myself. Let that start burning, and I'm going to heat this up because we got to saute our mushrooms before we put them in with the stew. So I've got the final 2 tablespoons of butter, which we're going to drop onto this cast iron skillet. Nice thing about cast iron is that's not going to take very long to melt at all. And I've got a package of button mushrooms. You know, these are creminis, but they can be white, whatever you like. Basically, any mushroom you like. And put them in. And we're just going to saute these until they soften up a little bit and give up their water. So, probably about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit less. All right, the mushrooms are browned. They're giving up their water, so we're ready to move those out of the way. Bring my stew pot back over. And now I can get the heat going back on that. And the mushrooms go in. And we got to just get this, keep this at a simmer. And we're going to simmer it for 15 more minutes to let it thicken and let all the flavors come together. "15 minutes have elapsed, and this is thickened up really nicely. So now is the time, and I just did this. You're going to taste the stew to see if it needs any other seasonings, whether it's more thyme, whether it's salt or pepper. But as it happens, this came out just absolutely perfectly. So this is now ready to bring over to plate. And as you can see, I mean, there's good pieces of meat and bacon. Everything's nice and soft. And the stew, it's boiling hot and it's thick. So as it cools down, it'll get even thicker. So let's head over to the workstation and let's plate up. So there's lots of ways you could serve this up. the way that I'm going to do it today is with over buttered noodles. But it'd be great in a bread bowl, and I'll link the recipe for that from a way, way earlier episode in the description. Or you could have this over toast, which is the way that Ina Garten did it. She took some crusty sourdough, toasted it up, rubbed some garlic on it, and then poured this over that, and kind of had it with where it was almost like the stew would sop up into the bread, and it was spectacular. Or any other way you'd like to have it. You can just have it as just the stew, have it as a side, have it as a main. But tonight it's gonna be the main for us. So I'm going to get a nice big spoonful with a bunch of meat and vegetables and that very, very thick gravy. Perfect. And a little bit of chopped parsley here, just over the top. And let me get the heavy stew pot out of the way. And this, besides smelling amazing, is really delightful. So this is the recipe. This is the one that got it all started for me. And hopefully it's something you'll try as well. I still can't believe this is 100 episodes. Thank you all for sticking with me. And let me know what you want me to do next. If you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe. And check out my Facebook page for Dave's Delightful Dishes, which will be linked in the description, as well as my Instagram. These are great places, as well as the comments here on YouTube, to let me know what you think and what you want. And I'd love to see pictures. I'd love to hear stories. And give me those challenges so I know what to make next. But until then, happy 100th anniversary, 100th episode, and I'll see you at the next recipe.